Why do so many women stay, even when they've been betrayed? Today, Erica Bennett, host of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club podcast, shares her story of heartbreak, survival, and the practical steps women can take to stop surviving and start living again. Welcome to Women Winning Divorce, the podcast helping successful women navigate divorce with dignity so you can protect yourself, your children, and your assets. I'm Heather Quick, founding attorney at Florida Women's Law Group, where women win at life. This week, we had Erica Bennett on the show, and we had a raw and powerful conversation about betrayal, divorce, and reclaiming your life. Erica shared why so many women stay in harmful marriages, how she built independence after her own divorce, and the steps women can take to heal and thrive. Welcome to this week's episode of Women Winning Divorce. I'm Heather Quick, owner and attorney at Florida Women's Law Group. Today, I'm joined by Erica Bennett, host of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club podcast. That is a mouthful. Erica is passionate about helping women navigate the emotional chaos of divorce with honesty, humor, and empowerment. After living through a shocking betrayal, a drawn-out separation, and the long road of healing, she now uses her platform to shine a light on what it really takes to survive and thrive after divorce. Today, Eric and I will be discussing why so many women stay in marriages that are harming them, how to navigate betrayal, divorce, and healing without losing yourself, and how to build independence, financially and emotional, before, during, and after divorce. Welcome, Erica.
Hello. Wonderful to be here.
Yes, it's so great to have you. And I have listened to your show, which I really like. So I feel like I know you. And so for our listeners who have listened, they will also feel the same. But for our listeners maybe who don't and haven't heard your podcast, would you share a little bit about your personal story and how you came to host your podcast, the Crazy Ex-Wives Club?
Yeah. So the Crazy Ex-Wives Club has been out for about 2.5 years. I never thought that's where I'd land, but isn't it wonderful how you just get redirected to exactly where you're supposed to be? So 2015, I found out my then husband was deep in an emotional affair with a coworker who was far younger. It started a 2-year separation because I was not willing to think that there was life after divorce. I was scared to death to start over. I thought that it meant my life was over. I had a plan. I wanted 2 kids. I wanted 2 dogs. We were supposed to do these things. And so it was some of the hardest years of my life, but also the most beautiful journey of figuring out who I am and what I want. Because at the end of the day, the only person we can control is ourselves. And so that led me through. So we had a 2-year separation. We ended up, getting divorced. I finally was like, we don't want the same things. It's time. Moved on through that to launch into some new chaos because now there was the new fiance was in the picture, right? Left my corporate career. I call that my second divorce of 19 years to move into full-time podcasting and helping women navigate divorce because it is just such a huge transformation and we really need the help to be able to get through it.
Absolutely. Wow. I know and I'm glad you're in this space, right? We're both in this space and focused on helping women through it. And there really there's not a lot else out there. So it's so very important, I think.
Yeah. And for me back 2015, well, 17, when I finally 16, 17, when I finally started working with a lawyer, I was leaning on my lawyer, thinking my lawyer was this emotional support, this therapist, oh my God, I can't believe he did this thing. And you call your lawyer and that's not their job. They want to help. I know that my lawyer cared deeply for me, but there also was this gap of like, who can really understand you in what you're going through outside of your legal team.
Exactly. Now, when you look back, what are the key moments or red flags that signaled your marriage was not healthy?
Boy, right? Because It's a gradually then suddenly. It's not like all of a sudden there was a big thing. Yes, there was infidelity. So yes, I found out that he had multiple affairs over the course of the last few years, but there were other things that were wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were on my side, I had become so codependent, thinking that we had to do everything and anything together all the time. We have to be together all the time. And for an anxious attachment, that's beautiful. And for an avoidant attachment, that is like a slow suffocation. And so it started on some of the, like, we really didn't like doing the same things. He wanted to do a lot of things that I didn't find joy in. He didn't want to do the things with me. We started not really having the right conversations because I didn't know. I didn't know
Right.
how to have these conversations. I just thought when you got married, then aren't you supposed to want the same things? Like, aren't you supposed to want to just start a family and have kids and have dogs and do those things? And
Right.
nobody teaches you how to have those conversations. And so when life got a little bit chaotic, I'm trying to think through all of them. We had a miscarriage that kind of started things. I wanted kids right away. He didn't. That was probably the first big crack because now
Yeah.
I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm moving towards this thing. And we get pregnant and we have a miscarriage and now I'm gutted and now I'm even more adamant that we must do this thing right now. Right.
Yeah.
So those flags were like, they were little things at first. You thought they were little speed bumps. You thought they didn't matter. But, I got a dog and he didn't want one. And I was like, we're doing it. And I was like full force ahead. So those types of things came up so that he started checking out. I didn't know how to have deep conversations that didn't end in like me being right. And he turned towards other people. So all of a sudden now he's going out at night. And now so after our miscarriage, we had our son. And I remember him multiple times being like, well, why do both of us have to stay home? Only one person needs to be home with the baby. So I'm going to go out with my friends, but you can stay here. That sort of gap came up a lot, right? We just started to really want different things. And instead of
Yeah.
figuring out where the compromise is in that, they just got bigger.
Well, and you said something I think is so important about, you didn't really know how to communicate because you don't really get taught that. I think that's a big, can be a big obstacle in marriages is communication because we all have certain styles. And, even if you can't articulate it, right? It's different.
Well, and I think the piece of that too, where I sit now versus where I was then is, you're communicating from a place of like, I want this thing. I want this thing and I want this thing right now because then I'll be happy. And we also don't know how to own our own mess. So talk a lot about like, you need to clean up your side of the street first. You need to
Yeah.
understand what are your drivers? What are your motivations? What is your mind telling you this thing means, right? Because there's a lot in relationship of if he says this, that means this. And that's not true, right? If we don't have the ability to say, hey, partner, because you wanted to go out on Friday without me, that to me says you don't like being around me. Is that what that means to you? Right. And that's when we get stuck in that resentment and we're fighting fights like against shadows that the other person doesn't even know that we're fighting. And so we have to learn that two-way street. How do we safely communicate with somebody else? But how do we first do the deep reflection to understand what's my ish? What's my problem that I need to explore?
So important. Now, you've said divorce was hard, but learning to live again was even harder.
My Lord, right? Because yes, divorce is hard. There's a business and there's the emotions of divorce. The business of divorce was hard. It was hard to find a lawyer. It was hard to work through the agreements. It was hard to pack the house up by myself and put it on the market and move through the stuff. That was hard. But that learning to live again after to me was even harder because it was a world that was filled with these like secret landmines that I didn't know I was going to step on something that triggered me, that sent me spiraling into crying on the floor, right? A little conversation about anything could all of a sudden be like, God, I'm so alone and nobody's ever going to want me again. And like, here we are on a Friday night, me and my journal and the dog. What am I doing with my life at 37 years old? And so to me, that world after, yes, the relationship was done. Yes, the big fighting was done. But learning how to pick up the pieces and being willing to pick up the pieces of your broken heart and put it back together can feel a lot harder.
Now, from your perspective, why Why do so many women stay in unhappy or harmful marriages, even after betrayal?
Fear. Fear is so real. I mean, fear owned me. It's why I stayed. So we had a 2-year separation. You guys, I found out that he had had multiple affairs with different coworkers. And yet here I was sitting scared to death to be able to say, I should probably pick better. I had a 6-figure salary. I had a long career. I was able to pay my own bills. I was climbing the corporate ladder. Like when you looked at it, why was this woman so afraid to all of a sudden
Right.
be alone?
Yeah.
And there are so many deeper layers of what it means to be in a marriage or be in this situation. And for years, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that there was something wrong. Because what did
Mhm.
that mean? What did that mean about me? What did it mean about my future? How would I ever start over? And so I think that lots of women stay in a marriage far longer because we are afraid of what it means on the other side. And so we start creating stories of why it's not that big of a deal and it's just a little thing and it's a one off thing. And so
Mhm.
we can rationalize and come up with all these excuses as to why we can take on more. It is easier for me to take on more than it is for me to step into a world that is unknown.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us so stuck. You don't know
Mhm.
what's on the other side, and your mind creates
Yeah.
so many stories of how terrible it's going to be, and you'll never get ahead, and you'll never be able to afford things or go places or have somebody who loves you. And it keeps us stuck far longer than it should.
Yeah, and I think that's so helpful, and I appreciate you sharing that because there's fear and it's about all of those things, right? You had a job that was going to be able to support you. Maybe now not two incomes, you weren't going to be able to do all the same things, but you had that and it still was really hard for you. And I think at least women can know like, okay, I'm not alone in that.
No. It's that fear. I mean, it's my second favorite F word is what I call it. Like I love it because it had owned my life. I was afraid to try a new restaurant because maybe I wouldn't like anything or maybe I'd get sick after I ate it and I didn't want to do that, right? I was afraid to go somewhere new. But fear is tricky because it doesn't show up like that, right? Like the restaurant
Right.
thing. It didn't show up like I wasn't afraid to try a new restaurant. I just didn't want to do it. Like, ew, why do we want to
Yeah.
go there? Why do we want to drive there? Like I don't really like I like the place down the road. That's how fear is tricky because it whispers, well, maybe later or not right
Yeah.
now or are you sure that's really what you want? And it hijacks our nervous system so it feels so real and then we get all wound up, right? Like we're backwards and we can't figure out what way is forward.
Now, how did you ultimately find the courage to leave?
Yeah, so it took a while. But the process was the same. When something showed up that didn't feel good, I had to look at it and I had to say, okay, emotion, what are you trying to tell me?
Mhm.
And if it was fear based or anger based or anxiety, whatever it was, then I had to stare it down. I talk about like imagine yourself literally staring down that big emotion and being like, are you real? Like I'm ready to
Yeah.
see you and I'm ready to face you. And so little by little, it's like the puzzle pieces of what you're trying to build for your life. I could pick up one at a time and say, "Oh, I'm afraid that this is going to happen or not happen. Do I really know that? Is that really the truth? Huh, maybe not. Okay, I'm ready to put it in place." And so, like one of the big conversations was after the 4th of July. I'd been doing my best to just complete the what looks like a good healthy family. Oh, my, husband has to work because I didn't want people to know he had been cheating because
Okay.
I still wanted the marriage to work. So it was like this big secret. And so I'd still show up places with my son and I'd still try and do my best to do the song and dance and pretend it was normal. And I came back from that holiday and dropped my son off at his house. And I said, I want somebody who wants to do these things with me.
Mhm.
Like, that's not
Yeah.
asking too much. It's not asking too much for my
No.
partner to wanna go to 4th of July fireworks with our 4-year-old and watch how excited he is. And yes, the traffic's a pain, and yes, it's a real pain in the butt, and yes, all the other things that we hate
Right.
about it. But I deserve somebody who wants to do that. And so one puzzle piece at a time, I started to get clarity on who I was and what I wanted, how I wanted to be treated. How did I want to treat another person? Because there were ways that I had treated my ex-husband, how I had spoke or my anger or my like frustration on things. I didn't want to do that again. And so I started to pick up those pieces and really get clear on what I wanted. Who did I want to be? What did that look like in partnership? I spent a lot of time visualizing. You need to close, I call it like the playing the movie of your life. So I
Right.
need to
Yeah,
close
yeah,
your
yeah.
eyes and I want
Yeah.
you to visualize like what does it look like in 6 months? What's a little snippet of what does it feel like to come home from work and put your keys on the counter and like who's there and how do your kids greet you? Or what does your child's next birthday party look like? What does the next holiday look like? How do you want it to look and feel? And I built those little puzzle pieces until I was like, I don't think it's us.
Mhm.
I want both of us to be happy. And I don't think we're supposed to do that together anymore because what you want and what I want are very different things.
Now, you've talked about not relying on child support or alimony to save you. Can
Yes.
you explain why it's so important for women to build their own financial independence?
I can. What a hot topic, right? People are like,
Yeah,
what?
I
A
know.
little polarizing. So take a deep breath. If you get triggered right now, start tapping it out and stick with me for a hot second. I feel really passionately about the fact that women should be self-sustainable. Okay. I get that child support is owed to you. I get that this is what he should be paying to you for the life that you built and is now over. And how freeing is it to know that you don't need that to live off of it? And so when I look at like the child support payment, that yes, I still get a child support payment. My goal has always been to get rid of it. Okay. Well, 3 years ago when I pivoted and launched a whole new business from scratch, we're in a pivot. Okay.
Right.
But part of that too was when the money comes in, if I don't need that money to get my son school, clothing, or whatever, if it's not going towards him, it's going into a savings account for his college. Like, I don't need that energetic exchange with my ex. He hates paying it. I don't need that in my life. Some months I do need it. Some months, you need to live off that money, and that's fine. And when we first got divorced, that was that reassurance that I needed.
Yeah.
My goal is that anytime we're looking at that, that still is an energetic exchange. What's
Hmm.
coming with it and where is it going? Right? Are
Yeah.
we really funneling it towards kids? I think there are a lot of people who do play the game and use that money for other things. And so we need to have some self-integrity. We need to really call ourselves out on that and be like, yes, you can be pissed and be like, I'm going to take him for his money. I don't agree with that stuff. You don't need to do that. I think that
Yeah.
women should build their own wealth and build their own security and turn that over, put it into a college fund, put it into an investment fund for your
Hmm.
child. Like free yourself from still needing him or needing his money for you to be happy.
Yeah. And, at least definitely here in Florida, and it's in most places, no one's getting rich off child support and even alimony, right? Like that mentality, which we've both seen and heard, and it's in movies and TVs that "Oh, I'm really just gonna take this from him." The law just doesn't really necessarily work like that. And so that's just a whole misconception and not based in the reality of what is going to happen in the legal arena, which is also can be challenging for women going into a divorce, not knowing and thinking that is an option. And, it's not in reality. And even if, let's say, there are millions and millions, more likely than not, you're not going to get if you're not going to really hurt him financially per se. And, as equal as it is, how is it? I was looking at this. This is a little off topic, but just because I think it is so important, right, for women. And then, and it was actually this morning an article that, how they bait you, like it's going to be about Jeff Bezos and his ex-wife going to court, that was not what it is at all, but I was curious. And it was talking about, like, she's got nothing to laugh at. $37 billion. Like she's doing pretty good. He's got like $280 billion. So like at the end of the day, if you are like, I want to like cripple him financially, you're very unlikely going to be able to achieve that goal. And I just say that because it's so unhealthy for us as women and for anybody going through this process, because that pound of flesh, that whatever. It's just the legal system isn't going to give it to you.
Well, and the energetic repercussions of it,
Yeah.
gross. Like,
It's
how
awful.
long do you want to continue to hate on something? Like, wouldn't you rather cut the chain? Because guess what? I mean, I spent years hating on my ex, hating on his new fiance. Do you think they knew or cared, or it didn't impact them at all? They didn't care. It hurt me. It hurt me because I started acting more shut down, right? I saw more things to be angry and frustrated about. And that's the thing. It's like, what does your happiness cost you? What is it worth to you? And this whole concept that we just like, we need to get them for it. I mean, my Facebook feed fills up with it. Every time a reel goes viral, the men that roll in to be like, you're traveling off his money and you're doing it off this and da da da. I'm not.
Right.
But I do get that that happens, and we got to own our own motivation behind things, because again, that's still your kid's parent. And so can we ground ourselves in, I want both parties to thrive. I want both parties to win at this. It hurts everybody, especially the kids in the middle. So why do we continue to try and hurt the other person that at one point we loved?
Yeah. It's that was so much emotion, right? That was positive in that love. And now rather than heal yourself, right? And recognize those emotions, it just transfers to the extreme, which I completely agree with you. You're only hurting yourself. It's really, if you can let that go, it's for you. Because they've moved on and they're not paying attention to that. So it's just kind of counterintuitive that you're holding on to this, because it really is going to hurt you more. All right. Now, what would you say to a listener who feels like she can't afford?
Ooh, I love these ones. Okay, we're going to have to dip into a little of the woo-woo world, okay? So you guys, I focus on the woo and the do. You have to have both, okay? Yes, we need to take action. Yes, we need to do things. Like if you don't have money and you need more money, you're going to have to do some things about that. We're going to need you to get you a job. We're going to need your money to work for you. We're going to need to set up a little automatic transfer into a savings account. There are things we need to do. But before we do those things, there are things we need to woo first. We need to really look at your relationship with money and your mindset with it, because, I shared that I was earning six figures at that point in my corporate career. I was scared to death that I wasn't going to be able to pay my bills. That sounds crazy pants for somebody who's barely making $35,000. If I had six figures, I'd be fine. It has nothing to do with the amount of zeros. It has everything to do with the mindset and the lack mentality that we put around it. So the good news is that these are things you can change now. So what you do to change them now, in fact, I just started a money mindset challenge in my divorce membership. And so for the month of December, we're focused on rewiring the anxiety and the worry we have around money, because we're not going to shift the bank account instantly, but we are going to shift your relationship so that you do things differently with your money. So the first thing I would have you do is I would have you sit down and I'd have you reflect on all the things that are around you right now. Look at all the places that your money has gone, all the places it's worked for you. I want you to really look at them. Do they make you happy? Like, I'm looking around my office right now. There's some crystals and there's some art on the wall. Like, do I love where I have exchanged my money for something that brings me joy? The next thing that I would do is I would start to really look at the gratitude around, like, I'm really grateful I was able to pay this bill off. I had to play that game for a long time. I am so grateful I could pay my mortgage. I am so grateful I was able to pay my credit card bill this month. I'm so grateful that I can go out to eat for lunch today and that I don't have to worry about the $10 I'm going to go spend in the, wherever I go. Start to shift and look at how much you do have. This is one of those biggest things, right? Around, I need six figures. I need 50,000. I need 200,000. What we need to do is be aware of, like, wow, look at how much I already have. And look at how much more I can call in. So it's these tiny steps. Every time the fear shows up, call it out. I'm like, oh, I'm future tripping. I'm worried about something that hasn't happened yet. I'm worried that I won't be able to pay the bill. I'm worried that more money will never come in. I'm worried about something else. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Look around. Look at all the beautiful things that it has afforded me. Am I okay and safe right now? Yes. Deep breath. Okay. Now what do I want to do about it? Because when we unwind the mental chatter and the anxiety, we can be inspired to take the next step. All of a sudden you'll be like, I should pop into that place and see if they're hiring. Or I should ask my friend and see if they know of something that's coming up. But we get so bound up in the worry and the anxiety that we can't hear the good ideas that are floating in.
And that sounds great. It is great. I believe very much in that.
First step.
But at the first step, like, how does that, if for someone, a woman, any of our listeners who have really never been exposed to that kind of, the understanding of the mindset, like how much power it has. And if you, learn that, but they haven't ever been exposed to like mindset work or personal growth, anything like that. Like, how can they start that journey?
Yes, because you're all going to think I'm crazy. You're going to be like, okay, I'm going to hit pause on this episode. Energetics and the exchange of energetics, which is just mindset, right, has been around forever. I mean, I want you to think about like attracts like. Magnet attracts similar things, right? Have you ever had that experience where you woke up in the morning and your alarm was late and you got out of bed crabby and you stubbed your toe and you got toothpaste on your shirt and then there was crappy traffic on the way in and the music wasn't good? That is literally the energetics, the woo at work. It's also the same, have you ever gone car shopping and you're like, ooh, I think I want this car. I don't really ever see it anywhere. And the moment you decide you want that car, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. These are the same things at play on a much lighter scale. Money is really intense. Money energetics are really intense because it threatens our sense of safety and our security and how am I going to pay for things. And so it feels very much like we need to control it more. And so if the whole mindset thing was brand new for you, I want you to remember this conversation. And you can even be like, Erica is a little crazy. And then I want you to add at the end of it and say, but what if it was that easy? And when we can start to shift your mind from being so closed off to there might be another alternative, then you can start to get those inspired ideas. You can start to be like, I just saw an article on my Facebook feed about money manifesting or money mindset, or I just heard somebody else talking about this. Because we start little. When you start with that gratitude of like, I'm really grateful that I have what I have and I am okay today. It's not where I want to go, but today I am okay. Then we can start to play the game, right? Every time I found pennies on the floor, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm rich. Like, I'd walk the dog and I'd be finding pennies and people would be laughing. They're like, it's literally a penny. And I'm like, well, nobody laughed when I found a $5 bill. Nobody laughed when I got a surprise check sent for $1,000 in the mail. It's the same things, but it starts so little because a penny doesn't matter. But $1,000 check could make or break your rent for the month. And so how do we gently shift our mindset? Just could it be possible? Could it start to work for me? And then find as much of that gratitude, appreciation as you can.
Now, what advice do you have for women who feel like they're at the point of giving up?
What I first want to say is like, sometimes you just got to like give it up, right? Like stop fighting. Like sometimes we fight so hard because we are trying to still control the outcome. And I was notorious for this because I was a very high achiever.
Yeah.
Whatever I focused on, I got and I worked through and I moved the marker on it through a lot of effort and a lot of hard work. And so when you are used to being the one who can control and create what you want, when something shows up that you can no longer control, it rocks your world. And you have to learn how to let it go and trust. And so if you're ready to give up, and I'm kind of like, in which direction? There's so many ways. Are they ready to give up fighting for their marriage? Then I'd turn it over to the trust and I'd be like, okay, universe, I want both of us to be happy and I need help. And so I need you to help me move forward. If you're ready to give up fighting, I think that giving up on the fight is good. I would take some time solo and reflect and visualize, what do I really want? How do I want to see this happening? What do I want to evolve out of this? And when you're in that lined up, calm, peaceful state, take action and move back into trying to control something. At the end of the day, there's really nothing we can't work ourselves back out of. Sometimes the hole gets really big and sometimes it takes a very long time and it feels all consuming and overwhelming and like it is never going to end. And I felt like the pain was never going to end. I felt like I was never going to be happy again. Even right now, and we're recording and it's the holidays. I felt like the holiday magic was gone forever. It was never coming back. But I stuck to the practice of what good could I find in my day today? What good could I take today? What is working out? And little by little, it shifts. And we just have to
Yeah.
get to 51%. We just have to get to a little bit more than half, because then that magnet that you've got pointed is going to start helping you do the work. It's going to add some momentum behind it, and it's going to help you be able to move forward. So if you're in the dark, I just want you to pick one more thing that you can be grateful for every single day. Just one tiny step forward.
I love that. I think it's so true. Now, let's talk about this because I think this is really important. And I have a feeling that, well, I know you have a lot of experience with it as well. How can women shift from feeling like victims of their circumstances to being, as you've said, heroes of their own story? Because the victim it's been around and it'll show up in different ways. And I just don't think that, it serves anyone. And certainly not women.
No, a great story of this is I remember driving home from work years after the divorce, you guys. So pre-2020, because I was still in the office. So I got to think here for a hot second, but probably like 19, 18. Our separation started in 15 when I found out about the other woman. And I remember driving home, talking to my friend, venting. You all got that friend you call on the way home from work to like complain about life. And we were venting about like, how he is ruining my life, how this is why I can't get ahead, how this and this and this, right? And everything was tied around the fact that he had cheated. How dare he cheat? And I remember sitting there and being like, it was 5 years ago that he cheated on you. Is the fact that he cheated 5 years ago really still the reason that you haven't moved on to a new career or found the new house that you want to live in or gotten a partner that you want to be in relationship with? Is it really because he cheated 5 years ago? And it was such a wake-up call because we get on a pattern, right? He did this to me and now I have to deal with it, and look at all the stuff that I'm picking up. And I was rushing after work to get my son from after school care, and I was on my way to have to do dinner, and I had to do all this stuff solo because of what he did. But because of what he did 5 years ago, no longer has a seat at the table, is no longer the reason that I'm not going to get the stuff done that I need to get done. And it's just, time just happens. And we stay stuck in that victim story of like, well, he did these things to me and I had to move and I had to start over and I had to do all this stuff. Yeah, you're being given this chance to rebuild what you want, to become who you want, to define what you want. And when you did it the first time, was it easy? No, there were little hiccups in the first time too, right? Maybe you don't remember what it was like in your 20s when you were like, had no money in college, right? And you were buying like the crappiest beer that was available because that's all the
and
money ramen noodles, lots
beer.
of, yes, like where there's the problem is that you're making a big leap. Okay, that's the only reason it feels harder is because you got stable at a new level and now you're restarting. But the longer we stay in a victim mindset of my life is hard because he did this, you are giving him all the power to continue to control what happens in your world. And I don't know about you, but he doesn't get that right anymore. Like there is no reason that anybody else, even my current partner, doesn't have the right to choose what gets created in my world. I have the choice, right? Boundaries and choices and where I invest my time and my money. What's important to me is where I put my energy.
Exactly. What is the one thing you wish you had known at the very beginning of this divorce journey that you went on?
Right? I wish that I could have believed that it was going to be okay earlier. And I'm sure for all the women you interview, all the women I interview, the biggest regret they had is they stayed longer than they should have. And we all do it.
Yeah.
And the reality is we make the best choice we can in the moment. And we continue to make that choice until we are ready to make a different choice. And so I beat myself up for that for a while. Really messed with my mind that I had fought for a marriage for 2 years. I was adamant. I knew what the solution was. And then at the end, when I was like, this is really not the solution. This is not it. And I changed. I had to go back and reconcile all those years that I was adamant. I had to rebuild trust with myself. I had to forgive myself for not really following the things that were coming up for me that I knew were the answer that I just was unwilling to believe yet. And I wish I could go back to that very first moment. I could still see the bedroom when we came home after couples therapy, after finding the messages in his phone about the other women and like what was happening that night. And I wish I could have like told that woman to just sit in the feels and rage and grieve and move through it and know that it's going to be okay. This chapter can close and it's going to be okay. I fought a lot longer than I wish I would have, but I also learned a lot of really valuable lessons in that. So I can't say I'd go back and change it. I just wish it hadn't hurt as long as it had hurt.
Yeah. So for someone listening who maybe is at her breaking point, what's the first small step she can take today?
Yeah. So the first small step I would want you to take if you are at your breaking point is I want you to find 5 minutes to sit with yourself. And I want you to put 2 hands, hand over hand on your heart. And I want you to close your eyes. And I just want you to be present with how hard it feels right now. To stop running, because we run from how hard it is for so long and we get stuck in that survival mode and our nervous system is shot. And so the first gift you can give yourself is to just be present with the heaviness and the pain and the reality of what is, because when you don't fear being present with it, now you can transmute it. Now you can transform it. Now you can move through it. But if we keep running and we never just sit with ourselves and say, this sucks, I didn't want to be here, this isn't what I had planned for my life, and it really hurts. When you let all that steam out, what happens underneath is the you who is going to rise can be heard. And that woman shows up and says, okay, I'm going to pick myself up now. Okay, I'm going to get up off the floor. Okay, I know that I'm going to get through this. I don't know how, but I am going to do it, because she's in there. But right now, she is buried under all of the fear and the pain and the uncertainty.
Oh, that's great. Such good advice. All right, Erica, before we go, I can't believe it's gone so quickly, but as you know, our show is called Women Winning Divorce, because I do believe in winning at life, and we can all win at life. What does that mean to you, winning at life?
Okay, I was really reflecting on this one, because, you know, it's like, oh, you're just happy. You're happy on the other side of divorce, and that's what comes up all the time. But like, how do you get to be happy? And you get to be happy by taking your power back. In any moment, I have the power to make a choice. I can choose to get upset about something. I can choose to take action on something. I can choose to do nothing. All of those are a choice. And so I think when you truly are winning at life, you have gotten to a place where you know you're in control, where I'm like, every single day is my choice, and I get to build what I want to build, how I want to build it, and with who. Because then like all the happiness stuff comes, right? Like the relationship, the healthy kids, the house, the whatever else it is. But we can't get to those things if we're constantly reacting or being driven by our emotions. And so when we learn how to sit with ourselves, when we learn how to take that power back, then you can really have anything you want.
Good. I like it a lot. Now, lastly, Erica, where can our listeners find you for more information and resources?
Yes, you guys, I am going to be your favorite crazy ex-wife. You can find me on anywhere and everywhere that is the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the website is thecrazyexwivesclub.com. You can stream the podcast on all of the 5 major podcast platforms, as well as YouTube, and look at coming to join the community or the membership for that ongoing support. So everywhere, we want to be good. We want to be good crazy, you guys. We want to be loving, abundant, happy, plentiful crazy. So we got to move through that divorce crazy first.
I love it. Well, we have reached the end of our show today. Thank you so much, Erica Bennett, for joining us to share your powerful story and the lessons you've learned about healing, independence, and empowerment. Your honesty and insight will help so many women listening today feel less alone and more capable of reclaiming their lives. Thank you so much.
Listeners, if you or someone you know in the Northeast Florida area is going through or even thinking about divorce, you're not alone. Taking that first step can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Our newsletter is filled with actionable advice tailored to guide you through this process. By signing up, you'll gain the tools to face the unknown with courage and see if we're the right fit to support you during this life-changing time. Don't wait. Click the link in the show notes, fill out the form, and take the first step toward building a brighter future today.